Hey guys, welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. My name is Chris Dohmen. I am your host for these proceedings. Don't mind my Neff dog. He wants to sneak in and say hi, don't you, Joey? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. God, the audio listeners are going to be loving that they're not seeing a nice, beautiful puppy on their phone, but that's all right. And guys, I do apologize if my voice is a little out of it tonight because we just shot a reaction for the Schmoedown. We're going to get more into that in the second half, but obviously it's not just me on the call tonight. I, of course, have my usual co-hosts, starting with Kees Cornelisse. Kees, you've had a good week, minus a very rough start. Is that a fair assessment?
No. I have had an awesome week, and I am ready to brag about everything. First of all, one thing that you guys might not have known, but a few years ago, I was in just not in a good place, and I didn't make any money, and that's why I got a huge debt, and that debt just kept growing up until it was almost 6,000 euros. Pretty big. This week, I paid off that entire debt. I got rid of it. I paid every, the government, the banks that I had my debt with, and especially my mom, who helped me through this. I paid it off completely, and I'm debt free, and that's a really good thing for me. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. And even more importantly, in the same week, I got a new apartment. I will not be shooting videos from this goddamn room, which I'm really sick of right now, honestly. I will move to a new apartment and figure out how to set up things there and just, have fun there, where I think I will be a lot better off than this room. So yeah, that's definitely very, very, very good news for me. I'm very happy with that. So that's why, yes, I've been drinking. I'm a little drunk right now. That's okay. I have a good reason, because of the reasons I just mentioned, and of course, because it's my girlfriend's birthday today. So yeah, it's Irina's birthday. Wish her happy birthday if you can, because I did, and just yeah, that's it.
I did as well, and yes, from everybody here dedicated to Art Arena, happy birthday. We always love having you on the show, whether it was our Game of Thrones reactions that we did, or whether it's Schmoedown reactions or the live show. Yes, happy birthday, and congratulations, dude. Nico,
Thank you.
you've also had a bit of a stressful week, unfortunately, but otherwise, how are you, sir?
Yeah, it's been stressful because I've been on management duty for House Night Fury and all the fan leagues, and there's just been taping after taping after taping. I was on 5 conference calls yesterday, and
Jesus.
Wow.
I wanted to die as soon as I got off the last call because I was just so exhausted. And by the way, as soon as we're done with this podcast, I have a match. So
Yes.
this is me doing positive reinforcement right now, just writing I can do it over and over and over again on my whiteboard, because a lot of nice things happen when you believe in yourself.
Actually, okay. As cheesy as that sounds, that's 100% true because I taped 2 matches this week, and I'll be honest, I was just nervous as fuck going into both of them. But I think what you guys are going to see when those matches do get released on Multiplex and Movie Trivia Face Off, respectively, I might surprise some of you. But we also have another pleasant surprise, and that is our second returning guest. Last time we saw him, he was brotherless.
Nico?
Although he might be in the his other half might be joining us in the second half of the show. But please welcome back Robert Adams, dude. Welcome back to the show. And how have you been since we last saw you?
Well, first of all, thank you. Been doing pretty well. It's been a whole lot of psyching up. I think the last time I was on there was like a couple of weeks ago. So
Something like that.
yeah. It was around the beginning of May because we were talking about the Star Wars trailer. Yeah, so it's been a whole lot of getting psyched up and planning for the Schmoedown in Houston. So Yeah, which I know we're going to talk about some more in a little bit, but
We are definitely going to talk about some more in a little bit. And first off, I see there's a butt ton of you guys in the chat. Happy to see all of you in there. Brian Newsbaum, Star Drew, Cool Guy, K-Wolf, Sound Off. Who else do we got in there? Very happy to see all of you there. So, before we get too much further into like the movie news and whatnot, there actually was a story that was brought to my attention, and I just wanted to quickly say I'm actually okay with this. And this is something I forgot to put in the notes because, like I said, I literally didn't hear about this till like an hour ago. But that is that Sonic, after all the crap that was going on with the trailer and the whatnot, and by the way, you too with that trailer, Robert. Oh my God, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
But now it's getting delayed to February 14th, 2020. Now, you'd think that's a terrible idea until you stop to think about, at least in terms of the last 4 years, that's kind of been a lucky date. Especially for
what day is it being released now?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
That's not bad.
Remember Deadpool?
Remember Black Panther?
Yeah.
I remember.
Fucking
I remember.
top 5 biggest openings of all time. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's good.
Yeah, so...
And I
like,
would even go so far as to say the Happy Death Day to You that came
Dude.
out this year.
Yes,
It wasn't as big as those, but,
No, but
it
it's-
actually was a pretty successful for what it was.
No, but it seems that February is definitely being a month that you definitely can release movies and they be successful with it.
absolutely.
Now, on the other hand, I just think this movie will be garbage regardless. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good luck restructuring your. Hey, at least you guys did something that Game of Thrones didn't, and that's go back to what you produced and actually like after putting out something, people saying, "Oh, this is shit," and then you're like, "Oh, we may need to do something about it." You know, that's something that Game of Thrones didn't, but you did. So props to you for that. Other than that, it's still probably gonna end up garbage.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting. I was just waiting for a Game of Thrones cheap shot.
Of course. What do you think?
And I do see we also have Kevin Smets in the
promise
chat.
I promise no Game of Thrones cheap shots from me.
Hey, Kevin Smith.
Mainly because I don't watch
What's
it.
up, Smasher?
Fair enough. Yes, future Indie Geekdom champion Kevin Smets in the chat. Always happy to see you. So, guys, let's start to actually dive into the news of the week. Starting off with something I'm actually surprised by. So, I wasn't even aware that Taika Waititi was supposed to be excuse me, goodness, so much tea and water. I apologize. I wasn't aware that Taika Waititi was supposed to be attached to a movie not about Michael Jackson, but actually about his chimpanzee, which, that's a very Taika Waititi thing to do. But then it was also supposed to be for Netflix. But now, apparently, both Taika and Netflix have completely withdrawn from the project, and now it's dead in the water. Because Taika's apparently now have to go do an adaptation of Akira, the famous anime movie, which, oh my god, for anybody who has not seen Akira, please just do yourselves a favor. But I don't, is this too, does this mean that the project for Michael Jackson's chimpanzee is completely toast, or is there still some sort of hope for it? Robert, I'll throw it to you first.
I mean, first of all, I question what was the main point, I guess, of making a movie about Michael Jackson's monkey?
There wasn't, as far as I'm aware.
That was probably my main takeaway from the entire thing. I didn't know.
Outside the fact that it was supposed to be like a stop motion animated movie, that was supposed to sort of just be a little something for. I don't know. It was a weird project, to put it plainly.
And then, unfortunately, since it's a movie that does kind of involve Michael Jackson, it does carry that controversy with it, and that might be maybe a possible reason why it's had trouble getting off the ground. I know it's been in development hell basically for like almost 10 years, something like that. But still, I'm like, I don't know.
Fair enough. But did anyone else, Nico, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I know that you were very passionate about the Leaving Neverland documentary that came out.
To an extent, I never really got through the whole first episode of that documentary, and it just kind of piddled out of my interest after a while. I was more interested in hearing everyone else's take on the documentary, and didn't find the time to get through it myself. But my thoughts when you said this news story out loud were, this is the most Taika Waititi project ever thought of. Like, this is, and if it's dead in the water at Netflix, it's probably because, first off, who else would want to take that project? And secondly, who else would do that project its justice? Because only Taika Waititi would have a mind for something like this, to do a stop-motion animation movie about Michael Jackson's monkey. So, yeah. Plus, I'm still not entirely sure, like, how toxic is anything Michael Jackson related at this point in time.
Fair point. Now, Kees, and by extension, our dear friend Kevin Smith in the chat, there is, I am intentionally bearing the lead on something that's not been officially confirmed because, well, personal bias here and all that. But, Kees, did you have any thoughts about this, or did you just want to say how much the Terminator trailer sucked?
No, we're not there yet. I just, because of the fact that you mentioned Taika Waititi, I'm like, he directed an MCU movie. You know what was an MCU movie as well? Iron Man 2. You know what featured in Iron Man 2? The Monaco Grand Prix. You know what is this weekend? The Monaco Grand Prix. That's all I have to say.
Ah, touche. and actually, and one thing I forgot to mention, R.I.P. Niki Lauda. Thank you.
Yes. Because Niki Lauda has won 3 world championships. It was amazing how he got the second and third after his accident, which, by the way, can be seen in a 2013 movie, Rush. By the way, if you haven't seen that movie, goddamn check it out because it's so fucking amazing. But yeah, rest in peace, Niki Lauda. He passed away at the age of 70, and he was a goddamn awesome Formula 1 driver.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not quite my sport, so I guess I wasn't, I'm obviously not as in the loop, but
True.
I can't argue with the skill that was presented, and Formula 1 racing is real racing, unlike, the driving in a circle thing.
Like NASCAR.
Yeah, I went there, and I'll stick by that.
I'm trying to remember, out of all of the United States, where is the largest Formula 1 racetrack right now?
Oh, Robert. Yes.
That is a loaded question, by the way. Because, yes, the USA does have a Formula 1 racetrack. In Texas, actually.
And it's quite nice.
Austin, Texas. And it has delivered a couple of good races in the past couple of years where my countryman, Max Verstappen, has done pretty well. So, so far...
Well, that's right, because I remember rooting for the Dutch guy.
Right? But yeah, the biggest Formula 1 track, I would still say it's Monaco because it's been there since 1950 when Formula 1 started. And technically, the track is goddamn illegal because, seriously, you can't race there. It's too fucking dangerous because the walls are too goddamn close. But still, they race there because it's Monaco and it's been there since 1950. That's essentially their reasoning for it.
Dude, there's a bridge in Pittsburgh where the undercarriage is so thin, I'm amazed traffic can get through it.
I know, right?
So we fixed that in Texas because if you ever go out to the Circuit of the Americas track in Austin,
yes,
there's nothing around it. Like for miles.
Yes, no, that's
and
true.
The closest
Hashtag
major
Coca.
thing to it is the airport.
And that's the perfect place to have a racetrack. Unlike in a
Yeah.
certain state that's going to remain unnamed that I'm still mad at.
What? Oh, by the way, this was also recently confirmed. The Netherlands is gonna have its own Formula One race next year, and I'm so happy with that because next year I'll be able to go see a Formula One race in my own country. Yes, and it's because
Yay.
of Max Verstappen because he is that great.
Absolutely. And, speaking of things that are not all that in a bag of chips, Case, quickly run me through why you just don't give a shit about Terminator anymore.
That's it.
Fair point.
Seriously, when was the last good Terminator sequel? Oh wait, that was 1991 when T2 released. There's a reason I have a poster of that on my wall. After that, no good Terminator movie has come out. So there exists no good Terminator movie after T2. And that's it. And it's not going to change. This isn't going to change it. So I'm done talking about this.
Fair enough. Now, as much fun as I've had with trolling Nico about his...
For Christ's sake, where are you going with this now?
Hold on. I'm trying to be nice about it, all right? Now, as much as I've trolled Nico about his, legitimate fear of cyborgs, which, yes, that is a real thing. I'm not going to, give people too much shit if they are truly afraid of artificial intelligence taking over the world and killing us all in the process. By all means, please, robot overlords, get your job done and get it done now because I'm sick of humanity. But until then...
No, don't. I like living. Don't.
Until then, is there any way I can talk you into watching this movie, Nico?
No.
All right. Robert, what were your thoughts on the Terminator trailer?
So I get that it was a teaser trailer. And like some of this they're talking about in our trailer reaction once I can get it out. Yeah. I've been a little busy, as we'll get into later. I like the fact of it first of all set up a completely different world. There was nothing Terminator related until you saw that first shot at the Terminator, and I forgot his name off the top of my head right now, but I do know him because he's from Austin, and he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Completely mind blanking.
Yeah, same.
So I mean, I like the setup for it. I do agree, probably with almost everybody, that this is you're trying an honest shot at reviving the Terminator series. Include the music. Just put even just the music in, which I know is fixed by that fan made trailer. But that was all you really had to do. Just stick in Brad Fidel's theme and everything would have been fantastic.
Hell, if you had to do that stupid thing where people add gunshots to the beat, all you have to do is just bum 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 bum, and that gets people excited.
Yes, exactly. But
I will
do that.
I will say this though, I do like the theme because the Young Bucks, who are co-runners of AEW, which debuts Double or Nothing tomorrow night, they like to use that for a time as part of their entrance music.
That's right, I forgot about that. Which good call, good pull. But yeah, as you can tell, unfortunately, and just like Case, I'm just burnt out. Now, granted, I somewhat I like parts of Terminator 3, but man.
Terminator 3 is okay as long as you don't accept it within the canon of the first and the second.
Which this movie's gonna do, obviously. This movie's gonna do what Jurassic World did.
That's the biggest issue, essentially, with any of the Terminator sequels, is that they don't fit into the canon of the original two movies, because the original two movies are classics. They are regarded as two of the best sci-fi / action / thriller movies of all time. And you will never, ever be able to come close to that with any Terminator sequel that you put out. And that is unfortunate. but it's just a reality. So that's why I have given up on Terminator movies. And like I said, I'm okay with the third one. There are a couple of ideas that I think work well, that I think are cool, that they should have done. Especially like the TX played by Christina Logan. She is a really good idea, and she would work really well in a different movie, I think, given better stuff to do. Where I think
outside of just redoing what the T1000 already did.
that's the thing. That's the issue, because the T1000 is just so goddamn amazing of a villain that you can't recreate that with the TX, and that's the issue. Since the T1000 was created in T2 Judgment Day, Terminator has not found anything even close to that.
No.
And that's where essentially the strength of the Terminator comes from. Create a Terminator that is stronger. You don't.
But, and the other problem is, like, at least with the other three films, they also didn't really have the most compelling heroes.
No, because
that's
because
where
Nick Paul as John Connor is awful. Christian Bale as John Connor is awful. And
Jai Courtney, what the fuck were you doing?
Or Emilia Clarke, for that matter, is just not good. And I love her as Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. So,
well, but speaking of franchises that actually are now getting better and better and better as they go along, after gaining $57 million in its opening weekend, John Wick Chapter 4 just got greenlit. Now, I'm pretty sure that, Robert, you and I are the only two who have actually seen Chapter 3, and wonderful review, which you guys will see just a little snippet of during the break, because I'm a nice guy like that. Of course. But how excited are you for Chapter 4 in 2 years?
So there's a part of me, and I know we did like a spoiler-free review, and I'm still going to keep it spoiler-free, but there's a part of me that was hoping that the whole thing would be capped off as a trilogy. And I do remember hearing Keanu Reeves said that he was game for like John Wick 4 and 5 as long as there's a story to tell. You can tell obviously by 3 that they are wanting to carry this into 4, and I kind of like where the storyline is going. The first movie, which I'm currently watching like as I go to bed at night. First movie's fantastic. For an original idea, an original flick, it's great. The second movie I thought had a little bit that dragged to it. The third movie was fantastic. I think the third movie was completely guns loaded, just straight up revenge flick type of thing. And now I'm even more eager to see essentially that still in the fourth one.
Ditto. I mean, sure, were there a couple of quote-unquote dull moments for me in 3? One can make the argument. When a film does slow down, you can actually really feel it slow down. But the simple fact is, the action just keeps getting better and better and better. And what's-his-face as the John Wick fanboy was just perfect. Perfect.
And I think that's why the slow parts felt slow, because the action was so far up here that any kind of break from this just was not down here. It was just an immediate, like, just straight drop, and you're like, all right, well, nobody's doing anything now.
Yeah.
So it was such a contrast from the high action that we've been having in that movie.
Yeah.
That's the only, probably, I would say, negative takeaway still.
But yeah, bottom line, both of us are sure as hell excited. Kees, as a fan of the franchise, you excited to get caught up with 3 to get ready for 4?
No, not at all. Are you fucking kidding me? The original John Wick is awesome. The second John Wick, I haven't rewatched it since, but I think was good. And the best thing, we talked about this on our action movies discussion last week, where John Wick is just his franchise, where it is really low budget. It can make a movie for $10 to $20 million and make way more than that to make sure that, we can make these movies a regular thing and make them awesome. And the people behind it clearly know what to do with it, where they know how to, like, first of all, just show action, where we can have the action in camera, in frame, where we don't have to cut a million fucking times, where we don't have to shake the camera a million fucking times just to mask bad choreography. No, the John Wick movies are different than that. The John Wick movies show actual action between characters, give you a good, simple, like sometimes simple motivation, which, I mean, I can knock on that, on the fact that it's a little bit simplistic in plot, but I don't really want to because the action is just so well done that I'm like, I don't care about the fact that the action is this simplistic. So while the plot and the story overall may be kind of simplistic or hard to follow, depending on your point of view, of course, on John Wick 2 and 3. I haven't seen 3 yet, of course, but I think that just the action in these movies is just so well shot, so aesthetically pleasing, and I'm like, just go watch these fucking movies. I don't care how many they put out. I will give my money to them because they're just good. They're just fucking good, and that's why I keep watching them. So yeah, that's
Absolutely. Nico?
What question am I answering right now?
Why
Okay.
is the John Wick?
Are you excited to catch up to 3 to watch 4 in 2 years?
Yes, because the first 2 were fantastic, and this is a franchise that just plays to the strengths of everything involved. Like, these are directors who know Keanu Reeves very well personally. They choreographers who know how to play to his strengths. Everything works. Everything works for these movies, and that's why they're coming out with a 4th. They've announced a 4th literally just days after the 3rd one came out. So what more is there to say that Kees didn't already say? Like, these movies are great,
Yes.
and as long as the story calls for it, keep making more of them.
Exactly. And you brought up a point where, because they're made for so cheap, that's where they can be allowed to just be great action movies that make a huge profit. Whereas, and luckily that's also like the one huge thing that helps these movies, that they are cheap to make. Unlike where, take for example, like Christopher Nolan. Granted, he makes great looking movies, but they usually seem to be pretty expensive. And I think it's safe to say that his upcoming film, now officially titled Tenet, like what's in definition is the a code of like a religious practice or a cult, something like that, or like a line of an upheld code. And so we talked about some of the people who were in the cast, but now it looks like we have even more people added to the cast. So as I mentioned before, John David Washington from BlacKkKlansman, Robert Pattinson, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Michael Caine, Kenneth Branagh.
By the way, when is Michael Caine not in a Nolan movie?
Memento.
Yeah, he wasn't in Memento.
Dunkirk.
I love how
Dunkirk.
a former
but he is in a lot of them.
a former Alfred and the current Batman are in this movie.
This is true, yes, because Robert Pattinson,
Yeah, I just
Batman.
realized this.
Oh my God! So wait. Does this mean
By
it's
the way, we didn't. Did we talk about that yet?
we talked about it last week.
Okay.
We ranted about it. We ranted about fan reaction to it.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very true. Okay.
Yes.
Collar is off.
It's all good. But so, and actually, and this is something that's really exciting for me. The score, he's not going with Hans Zimmer for once.
Oh.
He's going with Oscar winner from Black Panther, Ludwig Göransson.
Ooh.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm stoked. But and I did forget to mention the plot real quick. So, hear me out. Described as a globe-trotting adventure that dabbles in international espionage with shades of the mind-bending Inception, but also involves the time continuum a la Interstellar. We still don't know what it's about, but we have an idea of now the sort of the general feel of it.
So it's fantasy.
Yes.
Or it's a combination of all of his other movies. Like, is Batman going to show up in this also? I mean,
Well,
He's got a good point there.
and the whole movie's is backwards.
I can tell you just from that little bit of information, there's going to be a gigantic set design that is meant to spin in all sort of different crazy directions. Because he wants that shot that just nobody else but him can get because he's crazy.
fair point.
Okay, he's not crazy. It's just Christopher Nolan doing Christopher Nolan stuff.
Yeah.
Oh crap! Oh, what's that line from Speed? He's eccentric.
Yes.
The only issue
Crazy
in
when
my
you're poor.
the only issue with my opinion on Christopher Nolan is definitely different from anyone else, and I know that a lot of people probably like Inception, like The Dark Knight Rises, like Interstellar, and like Dunkirk, but I don't. And that's why I think, in my personal opinion, Christopher Nolan has been great in over 11 years since The Dark Knight, essentially. So that's been a while. And that's why at this point I'm very doubtful about his next movie. Like, am I going to see it? Yes, because it's Christopher Nolan and he is one of the biggest filmmakers of our generation. But a lot of people are putting him on a way higher pedestal than I am. I think he is not as great as a lot of people claim. I think that Dunkirk was fine, but not great. There were issues with that movie. Despite it being a good movie, nonetheless, and the same goes for Interstellar. I think the movie was good, at least. There are other people on this panel I know that hate Interstellar. I don't hate that movie, but I also, on the other hand, think it is as great as IMDb makes it out to be, because for some fucking reason that movie is rated in the top 50 movies of all time. Like, guys, it's good, but not that good. I just don't get why it's in the top 30, 40 movies of all time, like, because IMDb is that way. So I have a cautious, optimistic look on his next film, but I will not be the one who is jumping up and down like, oh my god, Christopher Nolan's next movie. Because
That's
other
Ryan.
people do that. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's true. That is true.
Now, Robert, you hear about this, like, and to be honest, I'm not sure if how much you agree with Case or myself to some extent on that, but what are your thoughts?
So the thing is I believe, and here, what's funny is I think my brother would actually completely disagree with me on this, because I would say out of the two of us, he is probably more of the Christopher Nolan fan, not just because they share a first name, but
Hey, but otherwise, Chris here, I love him.
I believe that, like, since the Dark Knight trilogy, pretty much, I mean, all of his movies have been coming out of Warner Brothers. So I believe Warner Brothers has given him a free pass to do whatever he wants. So, yeah. I mean, basically everything he's making is essentially a passion project. As with, for example, the movie trivia Schmoedown, if you get people with the right amount of passion behind what you're creating, it's fantastic. But that doesn't necessarily mean it caters to all audiences. For one, I did like Inception, as confusing as it was, and the fact that it took me like about 5 tries to watch that movie to fully understand what was going on. So, I mean, they got me for at least 5. That movie was like, what, almost 3 hours? So there's like 15 hours of my entire life so far spent trying to figure out what the heck was going on in that movie. And I am one of the, I guess, few people that have not seen Interstellar, just because I've looked at the trailer and I was like, no, it just wasn't interesting looking.
By the way, Interstellar is a kind of movie that would freak the fuck out of Nico, I think.
So I mean, I believe his stuff is pretty hit or miss. I love Memento. I love his Batman Dark Knight movies. Prestige I was kind of a little iffy about, but it's definitely one that I want to revisit because I believe I know enough about it to give it a better try because I think there's a really good story there, and I really want to try to be a little more immersed in it. And then what's the other one? Insomnia.
Oh my
That's
god.
his first, yes.
Insomnia was a little like it had the potential to be fantastic just given the cast alone, but for some reason there was something I didn't like about it, and it's been years since I've seen it, so maybe I need to revisit that one as well. Dunkirk was good, but definitely Dunkirk was a period piece personal project. And alliteration aside, that movie was pretty decent. So,
Okay, look, what I think about Dunkirk is pretty much that I think overall the production and everything is good. I think it's just once again glorified by the Americans, like, oh, let's show the Americans as great. Where, yeah,
It's
everyone
British.
in Dunkirk's okay.
Every
British,
character is British.
Point thrown out the window.
No. But the fact that they made the British look as great as they did, while in all reality, a shit ton of people died, and that's not what the movie showed. And that's actually something that funny thing, in the same year, The Darkest Hour came out, and Darkest Hour showed that a lot better, where they suffered a lot of troops. And they did save a couple of them, and yes, that was very
well. See,
good.
and that's why what you need to do is you just need to take Dunkirk, combine it with Darkest Hour, and just make a super film out of the two, and you have a great film.
True.
But now, Nico,
just
because I don't want, just because Nico, I'm concerned about you playing with that coin and like you somehow ingesting it. Because knowing you and how you throw things around everywhere, that could probably happen. Do you have any thoughts, or do you just want me to move on?
Memento was nuts. Prestige was fun.
Awesome.
I enjoyed the Prestige.
Okay.
The Dark Knight trilogy. 1 is very underrated. 2
Which
is
is?
Batman Begins.
Thank you.
Dark Knight. I feel like it's more so a Joker movie than it is a Batman movie. That's just me. Dark Knight Rises. Can't win them all, but it's not bad. Inception, I've made it to the end of that movie, but I honestly don't remember a single thing of what happened because it was just so crazy and confusing.
You have to watch it another 4 times.
That's the thing. I've watched Inception 3 times, and I still don't understand that goddamn thing.
2 more times, then you're good.
Maybe.
And that's pretty much where my Nolan viewings, as far as I can remember, stop.
But but you still actually didn't quite answer my question. So like, are you like, does this sound like something that would interest you, or not so much?
Let me see a trailer and I'll get back to you.
And that's kind of where I'm at too, because yeah, as Kees pointed out, I hate Interstellar. I hate how it handles the time travel aspect. I hate how they try to go for a quote-unquote realistic approach, but the problem is time travel is unproven.
I don't have an issue with the time travel aspect in that movie. I think it's well handled. It's at least better than goddamn Avengers Endgame, and I love that movie.
But luckily, because it's fantasy, it knows it can be kind of stupid.
Fine.
And I guess with that, and then with Inception, because basically how I've been hearing it is that this movie Tenet is basically Interstellar combined with Inception. And while I like Inception, I really do, even in all of its glory, but
that was a perfect impression.
I do just have to ask, can anyone just tell Nolan no, please?
No one can at this point.
And I'm like, I hate to say it, but I think someone should.
But they can't. I really don't think they can.
They really can't, and that sucks. But I really wish there was someone who could.
And that's going back to what I was saying, is that like all these movies are being made by WB, and they just keep throwing money at him because they see that he wants to keep making these passion projects.
And because unfortunately, Nolan isn't Tarantino.
No. There's a reason that Tarantino has actually won 2 Oscars and Nolan hasn't.
Yeah, and why I feel that...
Crazily enough, Nolan has only been nominated for Dunkirk out of all movies.
Which is...
You just made me think of something. I kind of want to see what a Nolan movie would look like now if you greatly reduce the budget from what it currently is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I would say
then you would go back to Memento.
Sorry, Robert.
Awesome.
Go for it.
I would say a testament to Tarantino is during the whole like Harvey Weinstein scandal thing. Look how quickly Tarantino managed to shift Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's production out of the Weinstein Company and straight into Sony.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to move it like as quick as he did, that is a complete testament to the abilities of Quentin Tarantino to make a movie and to get studio backing right away.
And good God does it show, because holy shit! That second trailer, though! Okay.
I haven't seen it. I just know that I'll go to watch this goddamn movie.
I'm of the same mindset as Kees.
Yes, and sorry, everybody in the chat, if you want to make fun of my voice, please go for it, because I don't know what the fuck that was. But Robert...
I just know. Check out their trailer reaction. Chris and Ryan did a trailer reaction, and it's awesome.
Shameless plug, thank you.
Yes.
But Robert, since we're on the topic of Tarantino, how awesome does this movie look?
It looks pretty good. So the thing is, like, the last Tarantino movie was The Hateful Eight. And for some reason, I don't feel like that movie hit as hard as his previous movies. Like, when the trailer came out, no one seemed to be that on fire for it. There wasn't as much fanfare for the movie when it was
Star
released.
Wars. It's because Star Wars. That's
Possibly
fighting that in the theater, and then Tarantino made a big fuss about it.
In a way, yes.
Hindering him. And so, like, there was some negative feedback from his reaction to...
On the other hand... Hateful Eight did beat out Force Awakens for original score, so
I think this movie, with the fact that it is essentially about Hollywood back in the, I believe it's the 70s?
1969, yes.
1960, oh, close enough.
Yeah, close
1 year off. I pulled a Brooklyn Veil on that.
Hey!
So it's... lost my track. My thought on that. I think this is going to, I guess, placate the Hollywood elite, much like La La Land kind of did when it came out. It's a movie about Hollywood, whether it's about like how Hollywood was at that point or how it is now with all the like weirdness and stuff that goes on that now it immediately hits the internet. It's I don't know. I think it'll be really good. I think that there's going to be more of a backing, more of a following on it, and people wanting to be invested in seeing what this movie's about.
Well, and plus, as I mentioned in the trailer, like, this might be one of the best looking DiCaprio performances I've seen in years.
Speaking of, I rewatched Blood Diamond the other day. That is probably my favorite performance of DiCaprio I've seen him in, because that is a that's the most important thing what I'm looking for in DiCaprio performances, and what I think he'll probably deliver in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a performance where DiCaprio is giving his all while not clearly screaming to the camera.
Yeah, and here comes the Revenant's backlash. Yeah.
No. It's not just the Revenant. It's also Inception,
Wolf of Wall Street and Inception.
Essentially, all his performances at one point where everything about his performance screamed, "I want this Oscar." And that's why I think this will once again be a great performance.
And there's a reason I'm trying to cut you off, because yes. Not to be a dick.
But okay, if you haven't watched Blood Diamond, watch it. It's awesome. Leo's great in it.
No, I
Thank
mean,
you.
I would say he was good. Even in Tarantino, look back at Django Unchained.
He's good. He's not as great as Christopher
He's
Waltz.
good. I would say he's great only for that one scene that all the other movie YouTube channels want to point out, the fact that he actually cut his hand when in that one scene and then smeared it on Kerry Washington's face, which is weird.
I mean, it's a decision, but and it did in a way define part of his career.
Yeah, and it was a great acting move on his part. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, because I want to give Nico a little bit of time to get his announcement out of the way, I'm going to only do one more news story. And good Lord, there were a couple things I wanted to get into, but let's just get into first photos from episode 9. They're out. There's a lot to unpack here. But again, for the sake of, everyone's time, and for Nico's big announcement he's gonna make, let's sort of do the quick version of this, if we may. Starting off, how awesome is that shot of everyone in the desert when Ray is just standing there, and JJ is also right next to her with all of the setup? Like that's a great photo. Fair?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next one. Oscar, Billy D, and Chewie in the Falcon. Are we not having all the feels?
Chris, can I just say one thing about these pictures and be done with this entire topic?
Okay.
All these pictures look so fucking good. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Look amazing. I love all of them. I want to see this fucking movie. I still have to wait half a year, but I want to see it already because it looks so good. So yeah, I loved all these pictures. I want to see this fucking movie already. That's all I have to say.
Man, seriously, we're gonna have to start a drinking game for how many times you're gonna just repeat yourself.
I'm gonna say, just for the record and for future episodes onwards, intoxicated Case scares the living shit out of me. But yeah, these photos look great. I'm imagining everyone in those desert photos were sweating their asses off underneath all that thick clothing. But I'm excited.
What do we talk about all the Schmoedown competitors that came to Houston, Texas this weekend? We want to talk about sweating.
Oh, good Lord, yes, I cannot wait for that. And by the way, and then Robert, quick thoughts on all these lovely photos.
The photos are like, I absolutely love whoever the photographer was on this, because I think it was Annie Leibovitz actually. These photos are absolutely amazing. The only one I do kind of have a little bit of a problem with, and it's just personal preference, I guess, is that one of what we were talking about with Lando in the Millennium Falcon. And it's not so much with the photo, it's the choice of what Lando is wearing, because it's very much like harkening back to Solo, and it would be great if we just completely forgot about that movie.
Yes.
No, because I've rewatched this recently, and I'm not gonna lie, I liked it a little bit more than I liked it in the theater. Maybe the smaller scale of everything, it makes it a little more enjoyable because your expectations have been lowered. You've had some time to cool off, and now you're just like, okay, this is fun. I can enjoy it for what it is.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Take a shot for every time Case makes an ass of himself. I'm kidding.
I'm out.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I'll just simply say, now, a couple of these photos sort of give off almost like a dream atmosphere. Like I feel like the Rey Kylo fight picture that we got, I'm not sure if that's actually happening.
Is that a fight? Yeah, that's really the question.
Yeah.
It's probably not.
It's probably not. And
because Reylo is so a thing.
well, never mind that. But also you got the shot of Luke with R2, and again, like we know now. Here's the thing: is that a flashback? Is that is Luke gonna be Force ghosted in later, and it just wasn't finished? And that's probably where it really was. But yeah, this movie just looks incredible. Now, guys, here's what we're going to do for about the next few minutes or so. Nico, I did promise you that you would get to make your announcement. So please, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, so a little bit of backstory. About 2-3 weeks ago on the Multiplex Entertainment Facebook group page, I put out a poll, just out of curiosity to see what people thought. If there was, let's say, an open weight tournament in which all mediums of trivia that the fan leagues produce, movies, geek, TV, comic books, sports, professional wrestling, and music and what have you, were all put into one tournament where everyone competed, who would be the best? Fast forward to a conversation that I had last weekend with Hunter Chambliss as we were discussing a possible mid-card title for combat wrestling trivia. He's been wanting to introduce sort of an Iron Man championship of some kind for the longest time that could be defended every week. And so that made me wonder, what if I take the idea of a title that's defended pretty much every week, if not every day, and put all those mediums of trivia together around that title and just run something independently? And strangely enough, 2 days later, WWE unveils the reincarnation of the hardcore title in the form of this ugly-looking green-ass belt, the 24/7 Championship, which is currently held by the funniest man in the company, R-Truth. So what I am announcing today is, and this is independently run, I am doing this sort of on my own. I will ask for help later on down the road as I figure out more of the details, but I am introducing what I like to call the Multimedia Trivia Pop Quiz Championship. It is a title that I would like to have defended at least once a day. We'll figure out the logistics of how we can do that later on. And also we'll figure out how many questions per match will be asked later on. Right now I'm thinking 2 questions per medium. But what is confirmed is that the 10 mediums of trivia that will be asked in question form for this title are general movies, general TV, geek movies, geek TV, sports, professional wrestling, music, comic books, video games, and trivia about the trivia community. Because the Trivia Schmoedown was a thing that Chris Clark was running, and
Yeah,
it just
and then
kind
it
of
died.
it kind of fiddled out because Chris Clark is just a busy man.
Yeah.
But I want to create something here that just shakes things up in this community that we're all a part of. Because we have all these leagues where there's a lot of structure, and because of that structure, sometimes we don't get the matchups we want simply because certain players are on a certain quality level in one league and certain players are at a quality level in another league, and therefore the stars just can't align for them to match up. But if we put all the mediums together and you have this belt with the wacky stipulation of anyone can play for it, then you get those matchups that you never thought you would get. Like, say, me versus Luca Hope Fallon Madden, or this is kind of mean, but Kees versus Hunter Chambliss, or Brooklyn Vale versus Jeremy Adams. Or Robert versus insert name here, because I don't know who you have and haven't faced at the moment. But this is just something I want to introduce for the fun of the game, trying something different. One last time, that is the Multimedia Trivia Pop Quiz Championship. Coming soon once I have all the details finalized.
So basically, to clarify, you're wanting to start a league where the league is all about pop culture in general, instead of just focused on movies or music or TV or wrestling or...
To rephrase what you just said, basically it's a hardcore championship that revolves around, in which questions are asked from every medium of trivia. I won't call it a league. I'll just say it's one of those wacky titles of wrestling that's found its way into the trivia community, and we're just going to roll with it and see what kind of chaos and fun can ensue.
So, but if it's all centered around just general pop culture, that sounds pretty interesting. I might be down for something like that.
Yeah.
Look. I think I have expressed my opinion on this in the past, and I will again. It's too much. It is way too much, because all the questions that you're asking, um, like there is a reason that certain people are good at wrestling trivia. There is a reason that certain people are good at just movie trivia. There is a reason that certain people are good at inner geek and or stuff like that trivia, because they have an interest in that. There is no person in the entire world, I can tell you this right now, that is interested in all of these divisions that you're presenting, and that is my biggest issue with with this idea that you're presenting. There is no person in the entire world that knows everything about all of these, and I
Well, I
know
mean,
that
essentially, you're pitching Jeopardy.
yeah, no, and
Sort of,
that's kind of the thing. You're trying to present something that just asks anything, which is okay. That's fine, but I don't know how that'll be accepted as a fan league. That's just my opinion.
Well, again, there's still some details to be worked out, but one of the
Yes.
ideas that I've had to sort of counteract that thought of not everyone's going to want to study for everything like that. One of the thoughts I had was that we know from experience that a lot of the leagues, they like to have you include 2 strengths for round 2. Me, I'm just thinking 1 round, 20 questions, 2 questions per medium of trivia, and I'm thinking I let every competitor per match pick 5 strengths as opposed to 2, so that they can get a balance of the stuff that they might not usually study, and they can at least pick something they're good at in those other mediums to balance out the scale. And then whatever doesn't get picked, a third-party question writer will fill in the blanks.
Fair enough, but so, and you wouldn't be actually putting this together for like another couple weeks or even a couple months. I'm assuming, right?
This is going to be a chaotic thing I'm doing. So obviously, it's going to need some
tomorrow night.
It's going to need some. It's going to need some work. It's going to need some work before I officially announce it. I just know that I definitely want to make it a thing before you and I, Chris, head to New York.
Interesting. But so that's what you got going on. Fair enough. Now, guys, we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break. As soon as we get back, we'll be talking with Mr. Adams and possibly a second Mr. Adams about their experience at the Schmoedown live in Houston.
That's right, people. I'm gonna duplicate myself
somehow, and it's gonna be awesome. But until then, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And once again, this entire season it's a trend. The first half of the episode I liked, and then we had the second half where just everything was just fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did they fuck up the second half of the episode, they fucked up the series finale. And I suddenly completely understand how you felt 5 years ago when How I Met Your Mother ended. When you spent almost a decade of your life watching a show, being excited for the next episode to come out, waiting for it because you love it so much, and then to have the final season slowly crash and burn everything you've spent years of your life of.
And I'll agree completely that Hickory Creek, it's not my favorite song, actually. I don't really have a favorite song because there's some that are kind of tied up, but Hickory Creek is a standout track for what it accomplishes. And when I saw the controversy before I had even listened to the album, that was kind of what drew me to listening to it, because I saw all these people complaining and I was like, well, that doesn't seem right, because I like when a band changes things up, as long as it's not, too much.
Like,
there is a certain way you can do it.
As I say, and there is such a thing as going too crazy. Like if, it's like that time Led Zeppelin tried to do a country song and it just really, really, really did not work.
Yeah, I would say House of the Holy has some issues there, but
I will preface a lot of what I want to say about the story and everything with, I'm not really into hyper-violence. That's part of the reason why I don't like horror movies, especially like the really violent ones, obviously. And this movie, they've stepped it up a little bit. This movie's a lot more brutal than the first two. And the first two, it's just a bunch of gunshots and whatnot. This one, there's some scenes in there that are a little bit not for the squeamish.
I know.
I would say.
I loved it.
This freak over here loved it. But for me, it was pushing my boundaries, and it's making me really, really want this story to end now.
Yeah, but that leads us into what, in my opinion, one of the best things about this movie, and it's going to sound weird. This is a everything to the wall action movie. Just blood, sweat, tears, everything.
It leaves everything on the table for you.
And the best thing about this movie is the choreography.
Yes.
That the fight scenes are so well choreographed. They're smooth, they're buttery, it's just nice shots. I absolutely loved it. Like, you see everything. Not like a Transformers movie where you can't see whose arm or leg or machine or whatever.
They don't do the cuts in this movie. You don't get things hidden. You see it all happening.
Let's get to the big one. The one that everyone's worried about. Will Smith is excellent.
Good.
Oh my God. Good. Like, he's not trying to be Robin. He's not trying that at all. He is his own thing, which is what he needed to do in order to pull his character off successfully. And I'll even say, while clearly Williams was the better singer of the two of them, Will Smith actually holds his own when it comes to Never Had a Friend Like Me or Prince Ali. So, but it's also because he does know when to let the background chorus kind of take over the track.
Right, yeah. And on that note, do you find that the songs do a pretty good job of carrying over into this new adaptation?
The old ones, funny enough, all but one of them. He's killing it. He is killing it in this role.
For real.
Like, this looks like...
He just sinks right into this type of role where he just gets to be, like, kind of like the asshole, like, shits on himself all the time, and so he shits on everybody else, too. It's like Wolf of Wall Street and so many other films, like, all over again. That's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, and Brad Pitt always bringing his Ocean's 11 type class and charm. You know, I don't think there's going to be a bad performance in this movie. I don't think there's going to be a bad scene in this movie. Like, this is what I want from my Tarantino.
Well, actually, Chris, sorry, I hate to break it to you. Quentin's going to show up on screen and say a couple shitty lines. But besides that, no bad performances. He's going to pull a Django.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live once again, back from the break, and we are joined now by the other Adams Brothers, second half of CineFanatics. And Chris, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, let's start with... First off, I want to ask you both, how was the fan event that you guys put on before seeing Ellis the night before?
That turned out pretty well. I think we're both like pretty happy with the way that turned out.
Yeah.
So we got there to the timeout number 1 where it was held at, and we just started chatting with the people who were there, who had showed up right when we first started. And I think one of the greatest things, one of the part of it that really stuck out in my mind is we're all sitting there chatting. I think pretty much everyone has their back to the windows, and I can see the window, and I see people walking by, and like I could have sworn I was like, I think I just saw someone. And I had no idea that any, like, who all was going to show up. I had an idea of like a couple like bigger names. I knew was it Chris Clark, Frank Janish? They were planning on showing up to the fan meetup, but I wasn't sure who else was going to make an appearance. So I'm sitting there looking. I was like, I thought I saw someone, and everyone's like, who? I was like, I think it was Guy. And so I turn around. I quickly look over to where the front door was, and sure enough, Andrew Guy comes walking in with the two members of the Action Army. Was it
Billy Belford and
Paul Denuzzo, and they came walking in, and I was like, well, okay then.
We're like, we're over here. We're over here.
So Andrew Guy showed up. He hung out for a while, which was awesome. Fantastic person, I would say.
Yeah.
And then was it Rachel Silverstrini showed up later on as well and hung out with us. Also,
she's always nice. She's always nice.
Yeah, she's super nice. Yeah.
And I will say, before we get into any more details, every single person that we've met, interacted with from the Schmoedown family, the community, the participants, every single person is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I got a single negative vibe off anyone. Everyone was very accommodating, very welcoming. It was great.
Well, that's awesome, and you know that's usually been a lot of my personal experience. Every time I've been out to LA, and again, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to make it because I was planning on it. I was hoping to be there for that event, but unfortunately, finances, gotta love them. Made sure I wasn't able to join you, gents. But overall, so you'd say it was a very successful night.
Like for the fan meetup,
for the fan meetup, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was very successful, and I would also have to say a part of that success has to go to Tim Sim for helping us out, since he lives in Houston. He was able to help coordinate a lot of this since we're in Austin. I mean, we just weren't able to go to timeout number 1 and just talk to management and try to get he was very instrumental in getting a lot of that done. So
solid point, man.
Yeah.
Yes, and speaking of Tim, I know I sent you a happy birthday on Facebook, but happy birthday to the great Tim Sim, who is a wonderful writer for TriviaSD.com. Now, moving on to the actual event itself. What were your expectations personally for just not necessarily the outcomes, but for how much you were going to enjoy yourselves?
I would say we went in with the expectation. I think, for the most part in the Schmoedown, fan community, a lot of people have thought of the reveal of the Four Horsemen last year as, the number one best thing that happened all year.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of had the expectation, because that's what seemed to be given off, that was going to be something that happened at Houston. That was going to be that kind of level of, holy crap, did you see this? This is going to be the one that people are talking about for a while. I think that was our expectation.
Yeah, we were going into it expecting something big was going to happen, not necessarily just storyline-wise, but for the fact that this was Christian's home. He was super excited and ready to have the Schmoedown in an actual wrestling ring. And so, just based on that, something big was going to happen just in that alone.
Mm-hmm. So that was our expectation, and I would say equally, I feel like we're pretty satisfied.
Oh, yeah.
On how that turned out.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. I was going to say, and you two had some pretty wonderful social media presence going before the actual event was taped. I remember, Robert, I believe it was you who was doing the selfie thing while laying in your hotel bed, talking about how, great guy it was going to do. And then, Chris had, some great rebuttals, and it was
that video aged very well. But that video aged like a very cheap whiskey.
Spoiler alert for the actual live event.
Which, to be fair, if you guys are clicked on this, you saw spoiler was in the title of the video, so no excuses. But speaking of that, did you guys come up with the idea for that sort of social media thing on the fly, or was it more, something you'd planned out?
I think you actually that one of us like just laying in the hotel room. I think you came up with that.
That was my idea, yeah, to do that at that moment.
I just wanted to lay in bed and rest.
the whole back and forth between us started a couple reactions that we did before that. The whole action army civil war, and then turning it into a civil war between the two brothers over here as well.
Ah, very nice, very nice. Now, Nico, did you have a question for our guests about Houston?
Did I? I was just laughing at the chat. Cool Guy says, I always knew Chris was the smarter of the Addams brothers.
Ouch.
Shots fired.
Ouch. Now, walk me through as you're getting settled into your seats. What is the energy like when you're watching people just keep flooding into this place and the crowds just keep building up and building up and building up? Occasionally, you might see like Jen walking around or Christian walking around. Like, what is the excitement as it's not officially started, but you're getting there? Like, walk me through that, please.
So this is one of the things I thought was completely awesome is so we got the seats, and I get up with my camera. Real quick, I could talk more about it later, but we're actually going to release probably tomorrow evening an entire reaction vlog of that weekend.
Nice.
So we're putting the finishing touches on it right now. It's pretty much done. But while we were there at the arena, I'm walking around with the camera filming stuff for that. And at one point, I walked by what essentially I think is like one of the green rooms of this event.
Okay.
And who was it? It was Janine and Chance walk out. And so as I'm walking past that, Chance is like within like a couple of feet of me. And I'm like, oh, hey, Chance, how's it going? Like, never met him before at all. I was like, how's it going, Chance? And he looks at me like, hi, Robert, how are you doing? I was like, holy crap.
He knows me.
You know my name. And I think that's
when I made it in the world.
Yeah.
This is where I reached utopia.
And this is why, just a quick side note here. Chance, listen up, you cheap skate motherfucker.
No.
You better be at New York.
Chance!
I can't do it right now. Otherwise, yes.
we like Chance.
Oh, trust me, we like Chance here too. But I just have some unfinished business, and I need to get it resolved. That's all. But no,
That I would say was one of the highlights of it. And I mean, there is of course while I was walking around, there were the few people that were like, hey, I like your reactions, I like your videos. It was nice because it's one thing if someone makes a comment on your YouTube video saying, hey, good job or nice reaction. You're like, cool, thanks.
Thank you, faceless supporter.
Yeah, we appreciate that, but it's another thing when you're physically walking past someone who you don't know, who knows you, and is telling you, hey, I appreciate your work. And it's that initial reaction that I would say is a good drive to want you to produce more good quality content.
Yeah.
Oh no! Now I have it in the chat.
Cool Guy's killing it right now.
Oh jeez. Paul will be mega cocky when he beats the shit out of that mute in a few. Ow! 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 Not if I get the chance first, Cool Guy. Actually, no. You know what? Inside note, I actually do think Chance actually has a shot in that match, but that's neither here nor there.
Hey, he definitely does. He definitely does have a shot.
Absolutely. And you know what? Actually, in Kees and Nico, if either of you have a question you would like to ask our dear guests, if you got something, go for it.
I'm
Okay.
just trying to.
I have something. I really don't want to come off as a dick, but both matches were decided by KO or TKO, and I'm like, doesn't that dampen your spirits. I don't know. Just like put you in a not that great a mood that the fact that the matches weren't that great were just decided very easily by one person or one team.
I mean, the biggest thing is, excuse me, is you like to go into these things every match, whether it's on YouTube or it's in person. You want to go in expecting a really good close match. I mean, that's how sporting events.
Right.
You want things to be close.
Yeah.
But in terms of this particular live event, I can't speak to other live events, obviously. But this particular one, I don't think it mattered what happened. The feeling in that room and just being there and just the experience of it all was worth it no matter what happened in those matches.
And to counteract what Kees just said, because he's looking at this from he's not looking at this from the perspective of a fight. And
no. Okay, to be fair,
why do people go to fights? They want to see people get knocked out.
Look, Nico, to be fair, out of all the sporting events in my life, I've been to one Formula One race and one football game. So I don't have a lot of experience talking about someone who's been to a lot of actual live events where I go to sporting events. So yeah, that's why I'm like, if you go to one and it's kind of disappointing.
And I actually get that a lot. I get where he's coming from with that, because like, now take it from me, I was in pep band in high school, so literally I was playing percussion in the better part of hundreds of games throughout my entire run in high school, and good God, a lot of them were really effing disappointing. But I also had more exposure, so the ones that were special meant that much more. So, you know, in a way, I kind of envy Kees that he hasn't had so much mediocrity in his life. But
again, you're kind of looking at this more from the perspective of, say, a football game or a soccer game where there's a set time limit, and if one team is just dominating, then it's kind of boring. But when you look at will you let me talk for a second, please? Will you let me talk for a second, please?
Okay.
When you look at it through the lens of a fight, where someone lands the knockout blow and it's over, and you're in that environment where everyone is just on their feet cheering, like, oh my God, there was a knockout. Oh my God, this happened. That happened. Then it makes it all worth it in the end. And if you look at how much the wheel played a role into it, the wheel played as much of a role into it as, say, someone landing a big punch. And it's a matter of how the fighters have to counteract said big punch.
What a punch.
And speaking of said wheel, you know, are you guys on that whole it's rigged train, or?
So first of all, let's tell the story from how it is. I would say
Please.
From someone who was at Houston. So we see this happening with the wheel, and I'm pretty sure we're in our seats sitting there going, oh, this is not going to be good when this hits YouTube. Like when this hits and everybody's going to see what's happening with this digital wheel, oh my God, the floodgates are going to open.
I looked at Christian. I could already see the gears turning in his head, like, okay, I'm going to have to say this later. This later.
And like, apparently, like, also, I mean, Thad was there helping with the production and stuff. And like, you look over at Thad and he's just
Dad's like,
because you know he's going to be the point man on this. So
Yeah.
when they're like, hey, so about that wheel and it hitting Spinner's Choice, just no.
That's the thing. It hit opponents at Spinner's Choice in both matches, and in the second match, it hit Spinner's Choice twice.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell just happened?
Now, as a testament to the competitors, not just like, say, Andrew Guy, but also down below was Robert Meyer Burnett, who was pretty close to where we were sitting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really good at this, like, ad-libbing and like
Playing
being
well.
able to think off the top of their head for their characters. The fact that wheel did all that, they immediately were like, "This is rigged," and they just went to town
on that, and like some of it you can see in like the YouTube video. But Robert Meyer Burnett was just completely losing his mind over there in that corner, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, so I mean, all that being said, like it's good for the heels to play up that front, but as far as like fans go, like I honestly I take them at their word when they say this stuff isn't rigged.
And you have to.
I mean, yeah, you have to. At the same time, like I look at the wheel, and I'm like, the digital wheel right now is one of the it's like a big piece of the show. You have to have the digital wheel up there because it provides a different level.
Probably not anymore, because after that sort of happening, they're going to bring that thing everywhere regardless of the cost.
Well, I know this is something that's being heavily talked about, even, I guess, right now as we speak, on the Facebook group, that a lot of people, and again, back to us sitting there watching this, and we're watching what's happening with the wheel, and like, here it comes. I mean, we can kind of foresee this is the way this was going to happen, and of course, it is what's happening.
Yeah,
is a lot of people are talking about this digital wheel, and yes, in reality, that digital wheel works off an algorithm. The algorithm can be changed. It can be manipulated. Yeah. We get that. But at the same time, we have absolutely no real proof that this is the way that Christian, Mark, the Schmoedown are wanting to take this route as far as like increasing the storylines. We have to take them at their word that the wheel is not being manipulated, that was completely a fluke of the wheel. Yeah. And the wheel understood that we're in a wrestling arena and that it's going to be good TV or YouTube to do what it did. So
the Schmoedown really does work off that honor system, though. I mean, because if you're playing off the fact that, you know, in actual wrestling, you know, the outcomes are the way they are written, but in trivia, you have
that's what they do with trivia. I've heard this time and time again. Regardless of what, like, they plan ahead of two different storylines, and that is what if competitor A wins and what if competitor B wins, and that's really just because, like, they plan that because of the fact that both competitors can actually win. Both of them, like, what if Andrew Guy wins? If Andrew Guy wins, we have storyline A set up. What if Ben Bay wins? Then we have storyline B set up, and we go with that. And you clearly see that in essentially every Schmoedown match, and that's a type of suspension of disbelief that, yeah, I'm okay with, I'm down with, and I really love, actually, most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing, like, if you're making a movie or a TV show, you have a set script. You know the way it's going to go. If you're filming an Avengers movie, you probably have 10 different scripts that go 10 different ways. Who knows?
Or Game of Thrones, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But if for, like, the Schmoedown, I mean, you take into account the production level, which I would say for what they're doing is pretty high.
Yeah.
Especially given what we saw this past weekend. I think I made a comment as to, like, I'm absolutely amazed how many people from the Schmoedown family, they flew out to Houston. I mean, almost everybody was out there. There's like maybe a small handful of people that weren't there, but like it was a lot of people. And I think, like, that's just fantastic that they were able to do that.
Yeah, a few extra people who showed up who weren't actually going to be on stage or part of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be, like, a couple of those people that flew out there on their own dime just because they're passionate. Yeah, and I completely understand if they did, because it was a great time to be there.
I mean,
but
outside of Chance trying to be on stage, but not.
Yeah, that whole thing with Chance. Here's the thing, I actually kind of like that. Y'all didn't see that,
unless you watched the live.
No, it wasn't the live stream.
Oh, we watched the replay on both of the matches. So.
I mean, it was edited out of the edited out of the replay because I guess they just don't really want to highlight it. There was a part after Founding Fathers won.
During their interview.
It was during the interview where Roca starts getting on fire about taking on corruption, and at one point Chance runs up into the ring to kind of like bow up at him.
So that's why they cut it where they did.
Yeah. If you watch, there's a cut to the audience, and then it comes back, and Jen starts asking to Dan, like, what are your thoughts and stuff. I thought that was a fantastic moment. Like, that really was like, here's a member of corruption going, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? We're in a wrestling ring. Like, do something. And
I think
obviously they weren't going to, but
I think it's just because they weren't planning on doing that or going that direction. So that's just the way it ends up.
But yeah, I mean, I really like that moment being there. But I mean, I understand why it was cut. So
yeah.
What fascinating insight! I'm very
Okay,
glad you're telling us this.
According to Scourge 77, he says apparently no one could hear or understand chants, hence the cut.
I mean, that's true. He wasn't mic'd or anything, so
yeah.
But here, speaking of audio, there is a question I do want to ask you. Because I've been to a wrestling event, and I know what the sound is like in person, and it's pretty gnarly. But
you know what this question is.
What did it sound like when that chair hit Andrew Guy's back?
It sounded like a chair hitting a dude's back.
Okay.
That
is good. That's very good.
Now, the thing is, what we're taking into account is that chair that was put into the ring, that was the kind of chair we were sitting in.
Yeah.
Like, that was, for all we know, that was not a prop chair. That actually was a chair from the audience. But the thing is...
Look, that definitely is a prop chair, though.
Yeah, probably, but
it's a chair from the audience used as a prop, yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, I used to watch wrestling back in like the early 2000s, so I mean, I'm familiar with what they do on those. The thing is you take a chair like that, and the shape of the chair, also the spot where it hit on Andrew Guy's back, it really didn't cause that much problems to him.
Obviously, I'm just asking about the sound because I've heard a chair against someone's flesh, and when you're in person versus just watching it on TV, it sounds like a gunshot it has just gone off. Like it's
really?
I feel
like that's pretty close.
It was fairly noticeable when he hit it. Like we watched the replay earlier today, and the replay moment that they showed of that, I feel like was pretty accurate to how it actually sounded in person.
Yeah. Well, and now, granted, I'm saying this as a sound engineer because otherwise, and I'm glad that was the case because from a sound perspective, that was my worst nightmare. Because, okay, I'm used to working in as far as my sound work goes, I'm used to doing more controlled environments. And just, having speakers reach the audience. So that way, if somebody's talking to a microphone, they can just use that. And I get why wrestling rings are the way they are. Now, from a sound perspective, was it otherwise really distracting when there was like people yelling, whether it was like Burnett or Guy when he was yelling at Ben for whatever reason? Like, how distracting was the crowd sound?
I don't think the crowd was too distracting at all. I think everything flowed pretty well as far as that goes. The crowd was up and loud when they needed to be loud, and otherwise were quiet when they needed to be quiet.
And the thing is to point out in an event like this is when the crowd is loud, you're probably loud too.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean the only things I would point out is like if you're familiar with watching a concert video or a DVD, typically you hear the sound of like the actual concert coming through the soundboard.
Yes.
So there is a difference between hearing it through the soundboard into the video compared to hearing it there live, speaking in person into a microphone in the actual arena.
Yeah.
That's probably the only real difference I would say from what we heard and what was seen in the video.
I wonder if Chris and Nico have the same experience from being at an event live.
Well, it's a little different because those events were in theaters as opposed to wrestling arenas because wrestling arenas are meant to have sounds echo because you want the sound of the crowd's applause and cheering and reaction to echo all over the place to make it feel like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing you've ever seen. Whereas in a theater, you have to really focus on what the people are saying. And the audience is obviously going to be quiet, so that's why they had things mic'd up a little bit more in the theaters in regards to the crowd reaction, because it's built differently is the answer you're looking for.
And in my case at the studio, the crowd wasn't bigger than 20, 30 people. So
I was thinking you didn't have much of a crowd anyway.
No. Now, guys, a couple more questions before we head out here. But I want to sort of go to the entrances. Which was your favorite out of all the entrances that happened that night?
Man, so for me, as far as everyone goes, it's hard because first you got Double Toasted, who were just entertaining as mess. They come out and Corey's over here ripping his shirt off and about to toss in the crowd, and that's hilarious.
It was like Corey took Nick Carly's hat.
Yeah, he took Nick Carly's hat off his head,
which that was pretty funny.
Then you have Founding Fathers, who they could just stand up the front and just their presence, just being who they are was
that's what I wonder. How was it to see Dan Murrell and John Roca live on stage?
Didn't you get to high five Roca in that?
Yeah. So Roca came by and gave him a high five while he was making the rounds.
Nice.
And what was funny, like as he's coming down like towards us, there's a couple of people around us that are trying to all of a sudden quickly move to like right there at the front, and I'm like,
touch Roca's hand.
Yeah, a lot of people doing that, and I'm like, we got a camera. We're filming reactions here.
We're reacting.
This is expensive equipment. Please don't.
So he's up on like right there, able to get to Roca, and I'm sitting there watching the camera.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then it was great when they during the live stream and in the replay that you could see us. And I'm looking over at the chat, and yes, Double Toasted are from Austin. We know exactly like where they're based out of now, and so
I mean that was cool. I mean, you gotta hand Dan for wearing a Buc-ee's shirt. So for all those who aren't a part of Texas knowledge, Buc-ee's is a huge like gas station. It's not even a gas station, a convenience store. It is like the Walmart of convenience. Walmart. It's a shopping mall.
It's a Walmart super center of convenience stores.
Yeah, and so he comes out rocking the Buc-ee's shirt, and all of us people from Texas are like, yeah, awesome, cool. It's a Texas chain, sweet. So I mean, you got that, and then you got.
Which was great because we actually stopped off at a Buc-ee's on the way to Houston, and it's actually incorporated into our vlog video that we did. So that was just complete luck.
And then I'd say the other big one, and probably the one that's tops, is just because of how it's played out. It's Guy walking out with Booker. I mean, you got to give props to Booker walking out with Andrew Guy there. I mean, he's a big guy.
I would also say that the reactions to Robert Meyer Burnett and Roxy showing up,
those two,
because we had no idea that they were there. Everyone else who popped out, we knew were there in Houston.
Yeah, we knew Dagnino and Riley were already there.
We saw them the night before.
We saw them at Ellison's stand-up the night before,
and that's another thing real quick. Going back to the family nature of them, like most everyone was there at Mark Ellis's stand-up, all in support of Mark Ellis, Roca, Ken Knapsack, Brett Sheridan. They were all there to help support them, and that's absolutely amazing.
Okay,
so, yeah.
And I forgot to ask, how was Brett?
Meyer Burnett and Roxy.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, finish.
So before Chris asks how Brett was stand-up wise, so in the moment, those entrances are obviously pretty damn cool because you're like, oh my God, my favorite Schmoedown competitors are on a wrestling ramp doing wrestling entrances.
Yeah.
But now that I think back to it, I'm like, were these the right people to have in a Schmoedown live event taking place in a wrestling arena, in regards to at least entrances? Because yeah, Dan Merle and John Roca, they're good players, but here's the thing: none of the people we saw really changed things up when you get to those big live events in regards to entrances. Like if you had someone like Janine the Machine and had Josh McCouga maybe been able to make it and not have to go to a wedding, you might have gotten a little bit more flair. Like if you think about Finn Balor, when he was in NXT, he'd always just come out normal for the non-takeover events, but then he'd break out the war paint for all of the takeover events, and then later on WrestleMania and SummerSlam when he got to the main roster. None of the people we saw in this particular live event really tried to go above and beyond and really embrace the wrestling side of things in regards to making the entrance feel special. Am I wrong to feel that way?
So I would say the reason for that is, instead of like Janine, who typically does a special something or another for her entrance, I think the special entrance was the fact that they were coming into a wrestling ring. They were coming out from behind a curtain, going down the ramp to the ring. That was the overall special entrance. And you have people like Burnett. Burnett has such a huge personality that he comes out and like hands in the air, cheering, yelling, screaming, exactly.
Just like that.
I mean, that getting that kind of a personality on a wrestling ramp, that's your entrance. That's your special entrance, because they wouldn't be doing that typically in the.
I mean, I'd say, as far as like, are they the right competitors? I'd say at the very least, Bateman and Guy were absolutely the right competitors for this particular one. I mean, just
it's very important, very personal storyline.
But in regards to entrances, I'm just saying, it feels like they didn't really switch anything up. For personally, I feel like there was potential to maybe go the extra mile, and someone like Janine would have gone the extra mile. Whereas that's just me. I feel like there was room for more pageantry.
It was the first time.
But that being said, I like the ones who showed up and came out of that curtain. None of them are really known for that kind of an entrance anyways. Like most of them just come out with like their entourage, or they come out screaming at the camera. So they're like not
Andrew Guy.
They're not Janine, they're not Bibiani. They don't typically do anything over the top anyways.
And that's why I'm partially asking, should we have maybe had someone like Janine or someone like Bibiani at this event instead of the Founding Fathers? Or
that's a hard call, man, because I think I understand what you're saying. As far as that goes, I think what you have to keep in mind is that I think there was enough just love from Booker that I don't think this is going to be the last time they come to Houston. So I think they're going to probably end up doing something like this again.
You're definitely right about that. There will definitely be more events in wrestling rings overall, let alone Houston.
So I think you gotta have the first time. Let's get our feet wet. Let's see how it works in this environment first, and then we'll take it up a next step the next time.
Well, okay, then I have a question to Nico. You know wrestling rings these days. What would be an arena that they would compete at? Do you know anything?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of the events I see on TV, they go to venues where all types of events are held, like concerts, football games, basketball games, places like that. So unless they go to, let's say, the NXT Performance Center in Florida, or the NXT UK Performance Center in, I think, Blackpool maybe, I can't really think of any particular venues that specify wrestling or are meant to train wrestlers to become the next big thing, the next John Cena, the next Brock Lesnar, the next Bayley, the next Becky Lynch.
Fair point.
Fair enough.
Fair point. Now, gentlemen, I see that we got about 20 minutes on the clock here, and partially because my voice is just about gone, what I actually want to do is
stand that.
Yeah. So I actually want to do just a couple last things here. So first off, just again, this real quick, how funny was Brett?
Here's the thing. As soon as I saw they made the announcement on Collider Live that he was going to be up there with Ellis, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm excited. Brett killed it. Honestly, like they all killed it, but I really made a point to actually like see if I could talk to Brett afterwards and be like, dude, that was awesome. That was so great. I loved it. I loved his set.
Nice. And Robert?
I agree. Like he got into what looked like a flow or a rhythm in the. He definitely looked like he was like a caricature of himself, I would say, on stage, and he did very well at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he used to be a stand-up comedian way back in the day, and no, there's my cat.
Kitty.
So he was saying that he hasn't done stand-up in years, and I would say like he came back on stage just looking like a natural
It's
at
like
it.
riding a bicycle.
Yeah, like he never really left.
Nice. And then to sort of bookend this entire conversation, so we've been getting told that season 6 of the Schmoedown is the magic season, and based on what we've had so far in this entire year, where do you two stand on that? And let's get into that for a few minutes and just talk about some of like our favorite moments, like sort of just amongst each other for a moment. So, gents, do you agree that season 6 is the magic season?
I would say so. I mean, just seeing as how far it's come since, I mean, even last year. So last year we had live events that were in LA. This year we're getting live events outside of LA, which I think that in and of itself is such a huge deal, especially for how much Christian had been building that up and talking about that all of last year. Like if we get enough Patreon supporters, we can start doing these events across the country, and they've done that. I mean, you know, places like New York, Chicago, those places aren't cheap to get into and to pull a show off. And so I think just based on that alone, we're seeing like some huge growth that's happening. And I think just by itself, that makes that the magic season in and of itself right there. Yep.
I mean, I was at that first show of the season in New York. And
You were.
yes, I and right then and there, starting off the season with what I would call 2 match of the year candidates.
Yes.
Those were fucking spectacular. And you just throw in how into it the crowd was the entire way through. Back and forth, chanting "You deserve it" to Dan Rowe when he wins that title at the end. And then still good moments for Jay Washington and Ethan Irwin when he says, "We're bringing you the time machine. Stay tuned." And since then, we've had the Schmoedown Throwdown, where we got to witness the crowning of just the second ever double champion in Rachel Cushing, who could potentially become the Pedro Morales of the Schmoedown and be the first Triple Crown winner, depending on how things play out in the future. Chicago, go ask any of the multiplex guys who went there. They had a freaking blast. You guys were in Houston. You know how fun and awesome that was. The storylines we've been getting, like especially with this Bateman guy storyline, where I'll admit I was souring on it a little bit midway through, but now now that we've seen, I won't say the conclusion, but here's where it's kind of halting for now. It's ended in a great way, and it was worth it. And also the rise of Kevin Smets, the superstars like
Hell
him
yeah.
are another
Hell
reason
yeah.
why this season has been so magical, and just what. And there's still a lot. There's a lot more growth to be had. Like I still remember seeing the tweets that Christian replied to Ryan Satin with of like he wants a wrestling trivia Schmoedown in the future. I know there's still rumors of a Game of Thrones exhibition match on the horizon. It's just a matter of when. But yet, like if we're already talking about that online with the people who run the game, then that means it's coming sooner rather than later. It's just a matter of the budget and how much, and the Patreon money keeps bringing us new stuff and more reasons to be happy. And when fans show as much passion as the people who make the game, this is the results we get. Yep. And it's showing.
So I would say, without diving in too deep, our interactions with like anyone involved with the Schmoedown, I would say that all of them have come off as fans first, and performers or competitors second. So everyone knows what we all want, what we want to see. They're on top of it, and going back to, is this the Magic season? Based off of those conversations and those discussions, yes, we're gonna see some great things this season.
Fair enough. And I think one last question here. How satisfying was it to see Guy get the ever-loving shit knocked out of him by Ben Bateman? Chris, this one's just for you, buddy.
Oh, okay. I was going to let him go first, but sure. Aside from the fact that I met Guy and he's a wonderful, fabulous, fantastic person, in that match itself, that was so fun. That was so awesome just to watch. The best part is like guys like turn around trying to escape the ring during that, and Roka's like, "Oh, hold on, buddy, where are you going? We're not done with you yet." He's pulling Guy back in, and Bateman just takes the chair. Oh man, yeah. As far as like,
so whoa. So that's how that went down then.
You missed it?
I thought Guy was trying to charge him a second time.
No, he tries to charge him this first time, gets the chair yanked away from him, and then as he turns around, he's like, "Oh, I'm getting out of here." Then and Roka's like, "Wait, hold on!" Grabbed him as he was trying to clear the rope.
Yeah.
So
Guy. I saw that as well, Chris.
you looked away.
Guy gets the chair from Burnett. Guy goes to hit, and Booker stops him. Booker grabs the chair. Once Guy realizes that Booker's in possession of the chair, he tries to hightail it out of the ring.
Like anyone should when Booker's got a chair up against them.
Booker hands the chair to Bateman. Roka goes after Guy and pulls Guy back into the ring. And that's when Bateman hits Guy with the chair.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
That.
One more thing. We've seen Bateman go through a table. We've seen Guy get hit with a chair. Who climbs the ladder?
There was no ladder in this match.
But don't you feel like we've seen two pieces of furniture used in a very well-known match, a very well-known type of match? We're just missing the third ingredient.
Well, that depends on what piece of furniture Bibiani wants to buy from IKEA next. So, I mean, poor Bibiani's table and chair suffered for this. So,
we're gonna have a hard time trying to pull off that this is Bibiani's chair.
His chair magically wound up in Houston. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'd say I've heard the same thing, but so with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We have had a blast.
Can I have a question? I have a question for Robin and Chris.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
the gentleman who looks like the Terminator. Go ahead.
Yeah, right now, yes, I do.
He's really just covering up the fact
Who
that
looks
he's...
like the Terminator from
I just-
Terminator
look,
2
I
and
just-
no other Terminators?
I just put on sunglasses for a guy. But speaking of the guy, who do you think the next opponent will be?
Good call. I forgot to ask that. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't actually like the stipulation was that Ben Bateman now gets to choose Andrew Guy's next competitor. And they didn't say in Houston. And what's funny is like
the cut scenes that were attached to today, we didn't see those either. So today was the first time we got to see anything backstage.
The post interviews and the cutscene we didn't see live.
Yeah,
And the Rocky 3 fight.
Yeah,
and that. Yes. We knew that was in there, but we had not seen it. I don't know who his next competitor is. I know
who would like it to be.
We know who we would like it to be.
You're thinking the guy who got hit with the chair is going to fight the chairman at some point.
No, I would like to see Andrew Guy take on Dan Murrell again.
It's either him or take on.
I told you this. I wanted this.
Merle or Cushing. Those are the two I want to see him go up against.
It's going to be just throwing the guy to the wolves, essentially, if it goes Cushing.
Well, no, that'd be Clark.
Well, definitely that, but I feel like towards the end of the season now, I feel like we have a storyline in which, Guy thinks, especially with the way the wheel worked out for him, there's a storyline in place where he thinks there's a conspiracy against him to not succeed in the game. So who do you go against when you feel like there's a conspiracy against you? The guy running the game. In which case, the chairman, Christian Harloff.
But to be fair, though, Matt Nost tried pulling a similar thing, and we never got that Nost-Harloff match, sadly.
But Nost might not have been the right person to try that thing out, and the timing might not have been right for it.
True.
So I will tell you what our prediction is as to how the season is going to end.
Yeah.
Is that now that Bateman is a part of the Five Horsemen?
Yes.
We definitely could foresee a storyline where the Horsemen are going to be essentially torn apart from the inside, and come the end of the season that Bateman and Guy were actually still team action altogether. Now,
you are completely confirming Chris's theories.
Hold on. I don't have any actual confirmation of that is the way the story's going to go.
No.
But what I will confirm
It'd be interesting.
is that they do know about it. The Schmoedown people do know that is what the fans think is going to happen.
Yeah.
See, I could see it going that way, but only on the grounds that Bateman can't get momentum going for him, or that Who's the Boss struggled to get momentum going for them.
But here's the thing: they're going to have momentum, because even in the post interview, the post interview from Houston, you already saw that we're starting to build up some friction over the fact that Dagnino and Roca are now essentially in charge of the Five Horsemen, with Roca
flip a coin. You see who's running.
Assuming to be the head of it, but Dagnino is just there in management title only.
Dagnino's
Is he though?
But you could also make the argument that they're setting something up where they actually sort of become like the best of friends and figure out a system.
Exactly.
And you see, that's unpredictable, but it also sounds like a great story of like, how did these two people who couldn't get along 2 years ago, how are they working as a functional unit now? That's a story I'd like to see told. But again, I feel like it's all dependent on where the wins come from, or if they come at all.
And as a side note, I've actually thought it could be a consideration where Dagnino's added to the Horsemen just as the manager of Who's the Boss as a team, and not necessarily as the faction in total. So I don't know if that could be anything.
And then this way they can still get a fifth Inner Geekdom player.
And they should, because considering if they have Dagnino as their fifth horseman, is like, really? That's the one you want? No. Just no. Just absolutely no. And there's definitely an Inner Geekdom / Star Wars player that you want to get into that faction, like an Alex Damon.
Do you think they're saving that spot for maybe someone like
Alex Damon?
Parker?
Alex Damon.
Wait, Nico, for who?
He said Robert Parker.
They could just be waiting until the budget is right that they can fly him out.
I think that was one of the questions we had at the time, is whether or not Dagnino actually is one of the Five Horsemen, or if he's just going to be an outlying member of it, just
management, and therefore allowing that empty space to be filled by someone who is good at Inner Geekdom or Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think millions of storylines that could take place out of this. There's a lot to be seen.
Roka's also talked about joining the Star Wars division at some point, and he's just been like, I haven't had the study
Yeah,
time.
I already know that Roka is not going to have a chance simply because of the fact that he said fucking Dagobah when he meant Bespin.
I would say that was one of our highlights that we really liked, is the fact that Roka called out his own Jane Fonda flub in the match. That was hilarious.
Looks like Jane Fonda.
Yeah. And then I'm looking at the chat, and I will point out real quick, the cool guy is saying that Dagnino is one of the greatest managers of all time.
Yes.
I will even go so far on a personal level to say Dagnino is one of the greatest people of all time.
My God.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no.
Exactly.
Once you
interaction
officially meet
feels-
Dagnino, your life is never the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. So again, back to
if you include Tom Dagnino in your life, you're better off it. Sorry.
Definitely. Talking back to our reaction and vlog video we're going to release, we do have a bit with Dagnino in there. Unfortunately, the sound wasn't as good. I did put subtitles in there to kind of help. But
I mean, gold. It's all gold.
It's all like...
Just check it out anyway.
I think we spent 10 to 15 minutes talking to Dagnino, and that's one of the best 10 to 15 minutes of my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I am a better person because of that interaction. So, I don't even need to release a trailer for this video. Just say that, and that's got people sold.
Exactly. I love it.
You've won a goldfish here. You've won a goldfish here.
There we go.
Good reference.
Talking about Little Bobby and the Juice, yeah.
We talked to him about Little Bobby and Juice. I wanted to know, like, what was his actual personal feelings about the fact that win a goldfish here.
He loves it.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask him that question. I know he loves it. It's good marketing.
True.
Exactly. But yeah, no, and so I'll be honest, does anybody have anything else?
Okay, here's a good one. And it might be hard to answer because, again, it's hard to predict the future. But let's say same time next year, maybe. It's announced that they're going back to the Booker T Arena. Who would you like to see compete?
Ooh.
Here's the thing, and we kind of briefly talked about this in the fact that, like, New York and Chicago were so good because the strength of the match itself. And going back to the fact that the matches here in Houston were ended in KO. So while the match themselves were not strong, the storyline was extremely over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, even the storyline of Founding Fathers with Double Toasted, the fact that Double Toasted are from Texas, which they're actually from here in Austin, not Houston.
Yeah.
Even that was a good storyline. The stuff that they did outside of just answering the questions. I think, like, that's the thing is, when they come back, are we talking about potentially having really good matches? Or are we talking about maybe storyline dictating the mood of the entire event?
Who says you can't have both?
Which is true. And again, that's back to the reveal of the 5 Horsemen last year, which
I was at too. I was at there too.
And we're super jealous because that looks like that was an amazing event to be at. But that was a good event. That was a good game, and the storyline was phenomenal.
I mean, if I were to say, like, who would I want to see, I don't necessarily know if it has anything necessarily to do with the wrestling ring in and of itself, but at this point I would love to see, like, a Corruption or something. I'm just going based off personal, like, who would I want to see live, and if Houston's going to be my only chance to do that because I'm probably not going to fly everywhere. Corruption, Shire Wolves. I want to see any of these, like, any of the top tier teams.
Any of the people we haven't already seen.
I mean, to be fair,
Oh, yeah, there's so many possibilities, and unfortunately it's a year away. And in this game, there's so much that can change in a year that who knows. I mean, I would like to see potentially like an actual team championship at that time, and I hope it would be the Shire Wolves. Now, again,
that's what I'll say. I'll say a title match. A title match would be good there.
But going back to, say, the fact that it's a wrestling ring, I don't necessarily see the Shire Wolves participating in any kind of the wrestling festivities that happen at a wrestling ring. But they just don't strike me as the type of people that are going to pick up a person and throw them down on the mat. Not like, say, Andrew Guy does.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with how great the season has been, I honestly don't know how. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know where the rest of it's gonna wind up. But I do know that the cool guy actually brought up a very funny way to close this out. What he proposes for Houston What If would be Double Toasted versus Real Rejects versus Wildberries versus Only Super Dancers versus Kinda Funny versus the Kingsmen in a fatal 6-ways team match, and to add a cherry on top, it's a 5-rounder. And with that, guys, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. Please stay tuned for both their vlog covering the live event, and stay tuned for our reaction, which will be dropping as soon as the show is over. But first off, I want to give a thanks to our guests. Please, CineFanatics, plug yourselves.
So we are the CineFanatics. You can find us at youtube.com/CineFanatics. We do movie reviews, trailer reactions, and Schmoedown reactions. And as much as we've already been plugging it the whole time, we have a reaction/vlog of the Houston weekend that we are dropping. I would say it's going to drop tomorrow night. At the latest. We're doing the final touches on it right now, putting a little polish on it. But that will be dropping, and you will want to see that, because that is going to essentially be the entire weekend from the fans' experience. And I'm really happy with the way that this is turning out. Like, I'm actually almost excited as to how this video footage looks as I was going into this weekend to begin with. So make sure you check that out. It will be tweeted out and everything. So that's going to be, I would say, a huge video to watch.
Yep. I got also Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Robert Adams MLP on Twitter.
Not to be confused.
CineFanatics MLP on Twitter.
Not to be confused with My Little Pony, obviously.
No.
My Little Pony.
Oh,
Thanks.
Lord. No. All right. Now, Nico, where can the good folks find you online?
Jesus, Case, you screwed up the live feed.
That's all right.
I know. I'm sorry, but
Sorry.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli. That's NicoSuaveRegoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 meaningless numbers thrown at the end on Discord. You can find me. Multiplex Entertainment is the name of the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. The Twitter's at MultiplexYT. The Instagram is Multiplex Entertainment Network. The TeePublic is just tpublic.com/user/multiplex. Buy our awesome shirts. Check out me and Zaddy Smith every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Crisis on Earthplex. Combat Wrestling Trivia is the name of the Facebook group. Combat Wrestling Network is the name of the YouTube channel. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There is no letter G. If you like wrestling trivia, come find us over there. Adonis Cesario, James Berman III, every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for the Raw and SmackDown breakdown. Right here on Dedicated to Art, and all the places Chris and Case will say in just a moment. And Roland Crits tabletop show on Twitch, Instagram. We're still figuring out some stuff, but yeah, tune in for that. And yeah, the Multimedia Trivia Pop Quiz Championship coming soon. Don't listen to Case the Curmudgeon. It will be a good idea.
Jeez,
Nico,
Nico,
speaking of the curmudgeon, don't shoot back, Case, please. Now plug yourself.
I will not. I am just sorry about my internet being complete horseshit, or I don't know if it's my internet or if it's my computer, but whatever. It's just something is being complete horseshit and it's cutting me off. Also, I'm drunk. I'm honestly sorry for that. I don't want to be. I want to be a little bit more professional on this show. So, yeah, I'm having hiccups to a million right now, and it's bothering the shit out of me. So that's where you can find me, right here at home, having hiccups times a million. There we go. And dealing with a hangover. Other than that, you can find me at That Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelisse on Facebook. Jesus Christ. Kees Cornelisse on Facebook and Letterboxd. Oh my god, I can't do this right now. I honestly can't. Lord. Okay, that's about it. I don't want to say anything anymore.
All right. And you can see him hosting our Schmoedown reactions, and you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2H Channel. Please like our Facebook page. And guys, don't forget, next fucking week, we have the writer of Andromeda, of The Flash, Thor, X-Men First Class, Zach Stentz on the show. Be here right away. He is here for the first half hour, and that is it. But until then, you guys know what to do. As always, take care!